Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Mess. So, you're gonna here with another dose of big decomp energy for everyone on this Monday afternoon. That is because KushAstronaut sent me a message over on Discord saying that their Silent Hill PC port had been updated with a lot more levels working, an entire launcher, as well as combat incorporated into the game. And because the Silent Hill PC port potential based upon the Silent Hill decomp is so huge out there, I know you guys want to know about this. Because the Silent Hill 2 remake absolutely was a fun time and really proved that Konami as well as Bloober Team could take the original formula and bring it into the modern era, and they are working on an original Silent Hill basically remake at this point in time as well, but considering the original PlayStation 1 has such heavy vibes, and those would definitely be lost or at least pivoted up in a new version of the game, having something like Silent Hill be available as a PC port would be a spectacular time. Because if you've ever tried to actually enhance this thing in DuckStation, get it to 16 by 9, and fix a lot of the issues that the game inherently has on PlayStation 1 hardware, you may have found that at some points in the game it'll actually crash and freeze because the enhancements cannot work the entirety of the way through. So having something like a native PC port where you could enhance the game, make it look better, run better, and have 16 by 9 widescreen support with all of the perspective texture correcting so you didn't have the polygon wibble, that would definitely be a great time. So we're going to go through this current build. Do be aware it is not finished, but if you want to test it, you can test it today, and we'll see how improved it is over the last version of this I talked about. Before I get too far involved though, do me a huge favor down below, hit like and subscribe and ring that notification bell, definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, we got a Patreon link down below as well. But honestly, the first time I took a look at this, it was very broken, but that was to be expected because it was basically a 0.01 alpha as far as what was going on is concerned. Now in this upgraded version, it is definitely working a lot better, even if Civil Air has a little bit of a restless leg syndrome going on. And that is the reality of a port like this. Of course, it takes some time to actually get to the point where you'd want to sit down and play the game from start to finish. And there's two different types of port ethos when it comes for releases. We just saw the Twilight Princess Dusk release, and that was a 1.0, basically buttoning the entire game up, and now it's in bug fixing categories. The second way you can do it is basically release every single build to the public to kind of play around with and test and see what's good. I'm not saying one's better than the other, but one definitely lets me see way more fun stuff like Sybil here doing some Michael Flatley Lord of the Dance business, and that is funny in all the best ways. But honestly, getting a native PC port of the original Silent Hill is going to be a big deal because it's not just down to the fact that you can play it on PC, it's going to allow for a lot of enhancements and a lot of changes to the game. Now, of course, it's still going to look like the original Silent Hill unless you mod in new textures, new models, and everything else, but getting it running at a higher frame rate, getting it running at widescreen with those quality of life improvements is going to be good enough for me, at least personally. Because again, I absolutely love the original Silent Hill, and I think it's one of the best survival horror and just horror games in general of all time. And while I am looking forward to a remake, and I'm sure if it's every bit as good as Silent Hill 2's remake will be, then it's definitely going to be a good time. But I do still love the original vibe of this game. That's something that's just never going to fully translate over into a remake. The voices are going to change, the textures are going to change, and it will be Silent Hill, but just in a way you don't remember. You might notice here in the menu at least there are a few issues where some of the models are not appearing, and when I did pause, the entire texture for that back wall went completely missing. But I always say in videos, I love to see how things get made. I am more curious about the process sometimes than I am about the actual final version of it. And don't get me wrong, when this is finished, I will definitely talk about it in video form, but there's something about seeing what actually goes into making a port like this that absolutely just intrigues me, because this is not easy stuff. And at the time of the recording, the actual decomp of Silent Hill is still 99.88% completed, so it still has a little bit over 1/10% to go, but that's definitely a high enough number you can actually start porting the game and kind of playing around with it, and that's what KushAstronaut is doing here. Let's go into our first of two soundtrack samples. Again, the music in Silent Hill, if you want to call it that, is way more of kind of like a machinery droning soundtrack that definitely ties in the overall vibes of Silent Hill into what you're listening into your ear. And I will say everything here sounds pretty accurate to what I would expect Silent Hill to sound like. But I also love to say I have 2 tin ears and you guys have thousands of better ears than I do, so go ahead and listen, and then you leave me a comment and you tell me what you think of the sound. But I'll be right back. I mean, it definitely sounds like Silent Hill to me, but you leave me a comment down below and you tell me what you think. And the nice thing is with this current build, there is a launcher as well that's going to allow you to select any single level or environment in the game and load directly up into that after you hit start on a new game. So as far as bug fixing and kind of playing around with the build and seeing what works and what doesn't work, it's definitely going to be a lot easier. Now, I will say the third-person camera definitely still has some work to be done to it. It is better than the original build, but it's still going to go a little haywire here. But again, in something that is not 100% finished, that really isn't all that strange. And if you hit the 2 number on the numpad on your keyboard, you're going to be able to go to a different camera that will allow you to see a little bit more. But the fixed camera here definitely has a little bit of a personality problem. It's basically taking the day off and deciding I'm not in the mood to work today. And like I said, that is all expected in a work in progress port. Nothing ever works the first couple times you try it, and again, that is the difference between releasing a port for people to test and bug fix on before it's ready for prime time versus having it all done internally and then releasing it as a 1.0 version like we just saw with something like Twilight Princess Dusk. And I like this version, like I said, slightly more because I get to see the iterative process of how these developments actually happen. If you think about it this way, once this is fully ported over to PC, the ability to kind of play around with the game, mod it and otherwise is going to be way more. Because we just never got an original Silent Hill PC port. The only way you can really play this game still today is on PlayStation 1. And don't get me wrong, it's absolutely a vibe, but if I put this on my PVM, on my original disc in PlayStation 1, or even Mr. FPGA, it's absolutely stunning. But I do think it really needs that CRT look to be able to actually show you exactly what the developers and artists were intending back in the day. I am not saying that Silent Hill is aged poorly, I'm just saying graphically, it definitely is a vibe, and if you weren't there back in the 90s when this came out and don't have nostalgia for the game, it might be something vibe-wise that you're not 100% gelling with. Because this game was dark, it was brooding, and it had a very big atmosphere, and I did love that about it. And you can actually move the camera around as well with your mouse cursor, basically having a free cam or kind of like the ability to have a second analog stick except on your mouse. I'm not sure if that would be super useful for the actual gameplay, but for playing around in the environment and seeing what's going on, or in this instance, in some of the darker areas, having trouble seeing what's going on as the game intended, is really going to let you have a better look at the world of Silent Hill. Because if there's one thing Team Silent was better at that I think anybody else on PlayStation 1 was world building, there's just something about the environment, world, and overall place that Silent Hill inhabits that just 100% hits every single time I play it. Let's do one more soundtrack sample so you can hear the quote-unquote music as well, and I'll be right back with just a little bit more. There's always been something interesting about the Silent Hill audio design kind of actually being so minimal as to make you feel slightly disconcerting feelings when you're playing the game, and I still love that about it, because not every single game needs this orchestral background to kind of drive home the emotion, and with the rain in this otherworld area here, with your footsteps hitting those grates, it just absolutely makes a soundscape that is unrivaled in my opinion in survival horror on PlayStation 1. And I can't wait for this thing to be 100% buttoned up, because I will say right now on your screen, it probably doesn't look as good as on mine, because I captured this on my PC while also watching it on my LG C4 OLED, and all of these dark areas here, these inky blacks just fall off a little bit better on an OLED where you actually have the ability to have some deeper blacks, and that really is an overall interesting look for an absolutely interesting looking game. Of course, this isn't going to make Silent Hill suddenly amazing if you never loved the game back in the day, and it is still going to have that chunky PlayStation 1 aesthetic, but it's going to have it in a higher frame rate, in better widescreen support with all of the polygon wobbling completely removed, and I'm sure a lot more than that. And even if this game isn't finished and you can't play it from start to finish, and clearly here there is some graphical corruption, it is showing a lot of improvements, and that kind of is how all this gets made. Sometimes the developers just don't show you what's going on in the background, and sometimes the game just black screens until you use the mouse, but I really love kind of following along with the progress of this one. I think you guys are going to as well. You leave me a comment down below and you tell me what's the one thing you would love to see out of a Silent Hill PC port that you can't do on DuckStation and PlayStation 1. For me, it would be having the enhancements on the entire time without crashing the game in the later stages. But short of that, we are done. I'm going to keep exploring the world of Silent Hill, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.